There are 7 states that are expected to determine the election this November, the so-called swing states. But what is a swing state?
The simple way of describing it is a state in the United States in the last 40 years that has actually swung. So it's actually flipped back and forth. Those are the swing states, the states that are in play.
They are in play while the rest of the states aren't. But why aren't they?
95% of people who identify as Democrats vote Democratic. 95% of those people who identify as Republicans vote Republican. And across the United States, we have some states that are certainly more heavily dominated by Republicans or Democrats. I could have told you in a conversation 3 years ago what's going to probably happen in about 45 or so states in the United States.
We know what will happen because of voter registration and history. Massachusetts skews heavily Democratic, and Kentucky heavily Republican. And it doesn't matter whether the winner collects 51% of the vote or 90%.
We've got essentially a winner-take-all process.
But the election hasn't always just depended on 7 states. The phrase swing state didn't appear in the New York Times until 1936. Prior to that, these states were often referred to as doubtful states in the media.
But the term really doesn't get to be used in popular discourse until after 2000.
In fact, Professor Schultz says the phenomenon of a swing state didn't start until about 40 years ago. Just take a look at this map from 1988. And just one cycle later, in 1992, this is how it changed. There were 33 states in play that year. 17 were decided by less than 5%, and 16 by less than 10%. And it keeps evolving. Florida, for example, was once considered a perennial swing state, but lost its title in 2020 after Republican vote shares increased 4 cycles in a row. Ohio was a swing state for nearly 6 decades and only lost its status in 2016.
So we've always had some states that have been in play, some that have swung back and forth, but because of the intensity of the polarization and the intensity of the divide in American politics, we've gotten to a point where there are fewer and fewer states that are truly in play, truly will go one way or the other. These states are so intensely important. These are the states that the candidates are campaigning in. Almost all their money, all their time is focused in these very few states trying to pick up the votes they need to win the election.